of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Excuse me, I need tissue. Sorry. 4.03, approval of the Board of Education meeting minutes from April 4th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. .01, patron comments. During patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning agenda items. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes of the patron comment period, and the patron comment period is limited to 30 minutes total. Combining time or giving your time to someone else to speak is not allowed. Only one speaker is allowed at the podium at a time. Please note that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comments at a later time via a phone call or a written message if a response is needed. We have a stand and a microphone with microphones ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patron comments clearly. If anyone who has submitted a comment card does not get the opportunity to speak, please know that you also have the opportunity to submit your comments in writing to the board at any time. The board appreciates that you have taken the time to come this evening, and we value both your input and your perspective. For your convenience, our 3-minute time clock is ready. We welcome Jessica Risenhoover to step forward. I'll move to superintendent and board comments.
Thank you, President Bidget. Earlier this evening, the Rockwood Board of Education approved 2 new additions to our administrative team. Chris Bennett as our new coordinator of web services, and Ashley Weedman as the new assistant principal at Rockwood Valley Middle School. Both of these hires will be effective July 1st. Chris is replacing Carl Weinrich, who is retiring after 16 years in the Rockwood School District, and Ashley replaces Dr. Eric Higgins, who was named Rockwood Valley's new principal, again also starting on July 1st. Chris currently serves as the communications coordinator in the City of St. Charles School District, a position he has held since 2013. He has also worked as a computer technician for the district for 5 years and is a member of the Missouri School Public Relations Association. Chris earned a Bachelor's of Science in Public Relations from the University of Central Missouri and a Master's of Arts in Communications from Lindenwood University. Ashley is currently a social studies teacher at Parkway Central Middle School, a position she has held since 2015. Prior to that, she taught for a year at St. Clair Junior High School and 3 years at a middle school in Kentucky. In addition to her teaching experiences, Ashley has experiences as a cheerleading and track coach. She has served on a variety of committees, including curriculum writing committees, and served as the professional learning community team leader in the Parkway School District, and she's done that since 2016. Ashley earned a Bachelor's of Arts in History from Murray State University, a Master's of Education in Reading and Writing from the University of Cumberland, and an Educational Specialist in School District Administration from Arkansas State University. Please join me in congratulating both Chris and Ashley and welcoming them to the Rockwood administrative team. On Monday, April 8th, the Rockwood School District students, staff members, and other members of our school communities gathered together, as we see pictures on the screen there, to witness and celebrate the solar eclipse. Rockwood schools marked the occasion with a variety of very special activities, adding to the learning and the general feel for that day, as well as a sense of fun experiencing a natural phenomenon that will not be replicated in Missouri for more than 150 years. That's 150 years. So if you missed it, you missed it, or you're gonna have to go someplace else. This figure named Little Dr. Kane and I both had the opportunity to witness the eclipse at Crestview Middle School, and I want to thank our Rockwood school communities for making April 8th truly a day to remember, one filled with positive experiences for all of our students. It was a fun day. Definitely a fun day. Congratulations to Eureka High School and to Rockwood Summit High School libraries for earning the Exemplary School Library Program distinction from the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the 2023-2024 school year. The 2 Rockwood libraries are among only 9 from across the state that have earned this annual distinction. Rockwood Summit is the only school library in the state to have earned that distinction for 4 years in a row, and this is the first time that Eureka has been named an ESLP. April is School Library Month, a time to celebrate the absolutely essential role that strong libraries play in schools as they assist in transforming learning. All across Rockwood, our library staff members strive to provide that means for supporting students and their development, and for also supporting their growth as lifelong learners, readers, and thinkers. The Rockwood School District has earned the Certificate of Excellence, that's the COE, in financial reporting, and this distinction has specifically been earned for the 2023-2024 fiscal year from the Association of School Business Officials, ASBO International. This is the 19th straight year that the Rockwood School District has received this distinction, which reflects the district's commitment to transparency and high financial reporting, specifically high quality financial reporting, in its annual comprehensive financial report. Rockwood is the only school district in the state to currently hold a AAA Standard & Poor's rating, as well as an ASBO Meritorious Budget Award and a COE from the Government Finance Officers Association. So thank you to our finance department and all of their staff members, led by our Chief Financial Officer, Cindy Bias, and our Director of Finance, Dan Steinberge, for your continued exemplary fiscal stewardship. I think they deserve a round of applause for that. I believe we have one more video, or actually pictures that are going to pull up. This past Wednesday, I had the distinction of helping to surprise 3 of our outstanding Rockwood educators with the news that they have been selected as District Grade Level Teachers of the Year. Molly Klintz from Westridge Elementary School, C.J. Van Zant from Crestview Middle School, and Jenny Highfill, from Eureka High School. They were chosen from among our 31 building level Teachers of the Year and are now under consideration to be named Rockwood's District Teacher of the Year. That specific announcement will be made at the Rose Ceremony, which will be on May 5th. Congratulations to these three excellent representatives of the quality educators that we have here in the Rockwood School District.
Any board comments?
Good morning. You have been selected elementary district teacher of the year.
Oh my gosh! Thank you! Wow! Oh my gosh! Thank you! Oh, and we have to walk in my room. There. Wow.
Who is Rockwood? Never too old to be serving. Please help me celebrate, along with Dr. Kane, Superintendent of the Rockwood School District. The Secondary Teacher of the Year is Jenny Hyde.
There are lots of fun days as superintendent. There are also some interesting days, but there are lots of fun days as superintendent. But to walk into those three learning spaces and to feel that energy, that's definitely one of the high points. Actually, the middle school, to keep a middle school's worth of sixth graders absolutely silent for as long as they were, to walk into that theater is much easier said than done. So congratulations. These are truly, truly, truly three outstanding educators, and they're very much deserving of this recognition. So congratulations. That's all for this evening. Thank you, President Midyet.
Now, are there any board comments?
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the public gifts tonight. We have a donation from the Rockwood Summit Silver Star Booster Club to assist the activities of the Silver Stars at Rockwood Summit High School. So we want to thank the community for all you do to support our students and our schools. Thank you. I have one more before somebody jumps in. I also had the opportunity, we were invited to the Hindi USA school for their performances last Sunday. It was 3 hours of Hindi, dancing, singing, plays. It was such a heartfelt community. We talked to them. We had the opportunity to talk about our relationship with them. There's 170 students that attend the school. They go on Friday nights from 4 to 6:30 and to learn the Hindi language and Hindi culture. And Parkway they're partly Parkway students and part Rockwood students. And one of the things that really came across was how strong their community is. And in talking with some of the teachers and the directors, the one thing that we came to the conclusion was that we all have the same language, and that is the love for our children. So it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm so grateful that I and Ms. Backert had an opportunity to be there. So it's just great things that are happening to our students.
Thank you so much, Tammy and Carrie, for representing the board. It's a great connection that we have with that community. So again, so thankful that you
I
attended.
have one more thing I want to point out. I told Dr. Kane this earlier, but for the 3 Rockwood Teachers of the Year, 2 of those are Rockwood products. So I just love to
Oh.
celebrate that, you know, our own kids are doing good back home. So Mrs. Heifel and Mrs. Clintz, Jenny was a graduate of Eureka High School, and Molly was a graduate of Lafayette High School.
On occasion, we talk about grow your own programs to increase the teacher ranks, and it's a great example of that.
I'd also like to make a comment to the public and to the board. 2 weekends ago, I had the opportunity to travel along with the Wildwood Middle School band program to Chicago. I'd just like to let everybody on the board and in the audience know that we have a great bunch of youngsters at Wildwood Middle School. Obviously, no surprise to some people in this audience who've worked in that building before, but a great group of youngsters. They received numerous comments from the professors who were evaluating them on both their professionalism and their level of playing instruments. I can't say anything about that because I don't even know how to pluck a guitar. But the folks in there seemed very, very impressed by it. But more importantly, I think, is the character and the behavior of the students on the trip. And I just have to tell you, it was exemplary. And if anybody in the audience, either here tonight or watching this, had a student go on the trip, ask them about the Chicago River Tour and how our school made best friends with the tour guide.
Others. Seven point zero one, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam President, I'd like to just point out a couple, maybe one thing in particular on the consent agenda. I know there's a lot of things that we put into the consent agenda, and sometimes those things reflect good things the district is doing, but we might not spend enough time paying attention to them as a community. One of them is the great work our communications department is doing. We've talked several times at this board about some opportunities we have to fill positions. We've talked about bus drivers, custodial staff, and I would just like to point out to the community that item 7.06 on this is that you're going to see radio, television, and digital ads to help us fill those positions. I think this is a great way to approach it. My compliments to our communication department for submitting this, and I wholeheartedly support that item on the agenda. So look forward to looking for Rockwood employment ads on television. I am.
Other discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8.01, National School Nurse Day Proclamation. I need a motion to approve that the Board of Education proclaim May 8th, 2024 as National School Nurse Day.
Motion.
I believe Amy's here. Hi, Amy Weir. I'm good. How are you? A little closer, maybe? Yeah. There you go.
Good evening.
Ah, there you go.
There you go.
So thank you for inviting me here this evening. I usually run through some numbers and things at this event, but we're going to do that in the next agenda item. So
Okay, then I'm going to ask our new board member, Phil Mulligan, to read the proclamation.
Whereas students are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And whereas families deserve to feel confident that their children will be cared for when they are at school. And whereas all students have a right to have their physical and mental health needs safely met while in the school setting. whereas students today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school, and whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and ensuring students' academic success for more than 120 years, and whereas school nurses address the home and community factors, for instance, social determinants that impact students' health, and whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. Whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, families, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health by promoting wellness and improving health outcomes for our nation's children. And whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at its peak. And whereas school nurses are members of school-based teams, for example, school health services, 504 and IEP teams, disaster and emergency planning, providing care coordination to address the school population, and whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day. Therefore, be it resolved that the National Association of School Nurses celebrates and acknowledges the accomplishments of school nurses everywhere and their efforts to meet the needs of today's students by providing and advocating for quality, student-centered care, and offers gratitude for the nation's school nurses who contribute to our local communities by supporting students to stay healthy, in school, safe, and ready to learn, and keeping parents and guardians at work, not just on this National School Nurse Day, but every opportunity throughout the year. Now, therefore, we, the Rockwood School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, as School Nurse Day and commend its observance to all citizens.
Phil?
Thank you all. And just one quick comment. We have two of our own nurses that several of us spent most of the past weekend attending a conference for continuing education, and it was two of our own that were the committee chairs to plan the conference and host the conference, and they did an amazing job. It was even mentioned in a National School Nurse blog today. She's called the Relentless School Nurse. Her name is Robin Kogan, and she was very complimentary in that. So I'm very proud of Angie and Eli that put on that conference. So
Thanks to their leadership and thanks to your leadership, Amy. So I believe we need to vote on the motion to approve that the Board of Education proclaim May 8th, 2024 as National School Nurse Day. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you in just a minute. Okay. We will now have a information provided to us, 8.02 Student Services and Alternate Learning Program Update. Dr. Steve Hankins. This is information only.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you all the wonderful things our Student Services Department does. If you describe what we do, it's a little bit of everything. We touch students' lives in so many different ways, and I'm just very privileged and proud to be leading this department. I would definitely be remiss if I didn't point out a very important person on this first slide, Mrs. Felicia Smith, who's right behind me, administrative assistant. She's my right hand. She's an amazing person. Not only does she work so well with our registers and secretaries, but the way she interacts with our public, especially our parents, she's always accommodating, always polite, always getting the right information. She's just such a wonderful asset to have. So I don't say enough thank you, Felicia. So today, tonight I should say, there are 4 outstanding leaders from my department here that will share with you specifics on their department. As you can see, there's 8 departments that fall under social services, student services. Sorry, social services is one of them. 4 of those leaders have spoken with the board earlier this school year. And so what I'm going to do in the beginning, I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of departments and hit some highlights of what they're currently working on, and then I'm going to hand it over to the great leaders I have of each department. So Michelle Orwick has done an amazing job with our substance abuse prevention and intervention program. Most recently, she brought in she's worked with Prevent Ed and actually created a new program to bring in a peer specialist. So that is not exact peers, but closer in age to our kids that can experience, share their life experiences with them, and also provide counseling with them and information. And so it's a new approach, and there is another staff member in there, but it's really looking at someone who has been sober for a period, but is also probably mid-20s. But a lot of times those kids who are addicted or have gone through those or currently are going through those issues, so much in their life they've been told, if you do drugs, your life's over. And so really what we want to do is also provide information in those kids to see the fact that if you get sober, that if you go through a program, that you connect, that you still have a future. And so, there are a lot of times they're more likely to listen to someone closer to their age. So that's been a huge success. Also, a program called It's Complicated was implemented this year at Marquette. And what they did, it's a program where they take Marquette students, there's 10 of them, and they were basically taught curriculum about cannabis, marijuana, and the dangers and the truth about it. So much, unfortunately, our kids hear that it's just medicine, that it's not that harmful, but the truth is it's very harmful. It can cause lasting impact on their lives. And so these kids were trained, and they go into classrooms and they actually speak with their peers about the dangers and educate them on cannabis. So the hope is she's wanting to expand that program to the other high schools in the coming years, and she's also looking at holding quadrant meetings to provide information for parents on substance abuse. So she's doing a wonderful job. Dr. Jamie Smith is our 504/homebound/special education liaison. She does so much great work for us. I will say what a lot of people don't realize, we do partner with the special school district, obviously, for IEPs and special needs. However, Rockwood is responsible for pre-K. So we do provide those services, and she's instrumental in getting those together. But she works very well with Carmen from SSD, and I don't know if you're aware of the number of 504s. We have a number of students in our district who have 504s, and it's great that we have the capability to meet with those families and get them what they need. But it is quite a task for Dr. Smith to make sure those needs are being met, and there's also a lot of paperwork that goes along with that. So, and she's so much also involved with just looking at the overall district and how we can better meet the needs of our students. And really, as an anecdote, just a keen eye, is she's looking at our field trip forms to make sure that just a normal field trip planning form, that teachers are asking the question of, do all my kids have access to this field trip? And what are there any special needs that I'm going to have to consider on this field trip? And so it's just putting that in the forefront, making sure we're thinking about that first. So she's doing an excellent job. Miss Jacqueline Floyd, she is our head of social work, and I don't think any of you are unaware of how much work they do on a daily basis as far as working with families and students. They stay very busy. If you look at what the slide she presented and put together, basically what she asked them to do is they'll take a day and they track how much time they spend on different things. And so that's what this is from, but you can see the multiple issues and things that they do each day. Not only are they a part of that school community, as far as day-to-day running of the building, but they also a lot of times deal with very students in high need and families in high need. And as a note, I believe their spring showers event was this last weekend, and provided, I think they work with the Girl Scouts, and they were at Crestview collecting lots of goods for our families who are in need. Matt Berry is our head of our school counseling. Always staying very busy, but one of the biggest tasks that he was asked to help with this year was helping all of our 8th grade students, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students create a 4-year plan. I guess if you're 10th and 11th grade right now, it wasn't quite 4 years, but that's new. And he was working very closely with our curriculum department and did a great job preparing our counselors, which in turn preparing our kids to fill those out. And the goal is that will also help with registration, enrollment processes for the future, and also give ideas for students to know what path maybe they'd like to go down coming in your freshman year. It's hard as a freshman, so ask them to think, what might you want to do? Some of them know right away, some of them have no idea. We always remind students and family, this is not set in stone, but it is a plan, and you can change it. So as your interests change from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year, that plan can change with you. It just gives them a good idea of looking ahead of what they need to do. The first person I'm going to call up to present to you is Dr. Denny Rhodes, and he's going to give you some information on the gifted education program. Dr. Rhodes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in tonight and taking a couple minutes to hear just about the gifted program in general. I'm Denny Rhodes. I'm the director of Gifted K through 12. Going to give you a brief overview about the gifted program in general. Also look at recent developments that we've actually incorporated throughout this year, and then also some recent advances we've done with our curriculum, just to give you an overall update. So, overview. We offer gifted services K through 12 in Rockwood. If you actually look at the number of students that we service, we currently offer services to 12.6% of the students who attend Rockwood. And students who, the 12.6% is comprised of students who have been identified as showing gifted characteristics as through criteria defined by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We have 3 different models of gifted services. In the elementary level, we offer a center-based model that is 1 day a week where students from the 19 elementary schools come to the Center for Creative Learning, and they spend the entire day receiving advanced curriculum in the areas of problem-based learning, along with, or I should say problem-based learning wrapped around a real-world problem. At our elementary level, we're servicing 12.3% of the elementary population, or 1,043 students. That's the most up-to-date numbers that we have. We add students throughout the year, so our population actually grows throughout the year. In middle school is actually offered through a specialized class called Stretch, and it's actually built into the student's schedule. And so they actually go to the schedule every other day, or go to Stretch every other day. Currently, we are offering our gifted services to 638 students at the middle school level. That equates to 13.5% of the middle school population. And then in high school, we actually do what's called a gifted resource model, otherwise an advisory role. And basically, they have students come in whenever the students feel like they need support. They also work with students one-on-one to actually help with various aspects of whether it's executive functioning or actually even helping with planning schedules or finding clubs to be part of. They do a lot of, they help support students in a number of different ways. And at the high school level, we currently have 833 students that we're supporting across the 4 high schools, or 12.6% of the high school population. Overall, it equals 2,486 students served by the gifted program, or 12.6% of the district. Over the last 3 years, our population, our gifted population has increased. Our number is went from about 12.1% to up to 12.6%. So as far as percent served, and the as I stated, the curriculum that we actually offer for K through 8 is problem-based, and it's wrapped in a real-world context. Things that have changed this year, things that we've actually worked on. So during this academic school year, Dr. Hinkins and I worked on, and then you all approved creation and passing of RSD Policy 2545, which clearly defines the gifted assessment appeal process. And so that's been a wonderful addition to our gifted education in the district, because it clearly defines for parents if they have questions about how to appeal the process. It's clearly there as a board policy, which is great. We've also expanded our Rockwood Gifted Program Talent Development Pilot initiative that we started last year. We call it Explore. It actually now includes second grade at 4 of our Title I schools. And so talent development, what we actually do with the pilot is we actually do what would be considered called front loading. So we actually offer, whether it's deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, systems thinking, just opportunities for kids from all backgrounds to actually grow their talents before actually getting to a place to be assessed for gifted. So that's a second year of the pilot. Last year we had done first grade only. This year we incorporated second grade and continued with first grade. So we've actually been able to expand it. And then in our K through 5 portion of the program, we had previously sent out any assessments done through a PDF sent out to individual parents through either print or the email, and we've actually moved over to assessing and reporting of our assessing through Infinite Campus this year. Those are some of the larger initiatives that we've had in place are put into place this year. Whenever we look at curriculum for grades K through 8, what I'll be talking about now, these are actually in process. So the state, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, came out with what are called Missouri Gifted Learner Outcomes at the start of the previous school year. And what's nice is up until then, the state actually had not defined what it was to go through a gifted program. So Gifted Learner Outcomes actually gave us domains that we could actually focus our curriculum on to actually be able to make sure we're meeting outcomes as defined by DESE. And so we've actually been implementing Missouri Gifted Learner Outcomes in our K through 8 curriculum this year. As part of that, one of the things that we've started doing is creating forward-facing curriculum documents for the RSD curriculum page on the website. 6 through 8, a draft of the 6 through 8 has been posted, so that way parents can actually see exactly what is going on in Stretch. That's something that hasn't been there before. So we're trying to make ourselves more transparent for families and everyone to be able to see. K through 5 will actually be posted with our curriculum by the end of the summer, and so that's one of the things I'm working on finishing up. And then one thing that was actually new was actually that along with this process is for grades 6 through 8, actually having a shared curriculum across all 6 middle schools, which might sound sort of like a strange concept, but in gifted it really hasn't been. It's one of those things where they've really been able to do different things at the different schools. And so this year we actually had shared curriculum across all 6 middle schools with 4 units in common for each of the 3 grade levels. And that was actually something else new curriculum-wise that was put into place this year. So we've had a pretty busy year implementing and adding to what it is that we're offering students. And overall, that just gives you a brief overview of the program itself, actually the new things that we put into place along with updates to the curriculum.
Questions. Why do you think there's an increase over the past 3 years? Is that an after effect of COVID with testing, or we have brighter kids, or the talent profile, that pilot?
So I'll say there's been a couple different factors that have gone into it. One of the things that we put into place, this is our 3rd year of having it in place, is a more flexible way of looking at kids. What we have to do as a program to be state approved is there are 4 areas of assessment that you can actually look at for gifted, to define gifted service, whether or not gifted services are needed. And we actually started looking at the process and what the state had put out in a little bit more flexible way for all of our students. And so it's one of the aspects of, traditionally, if I go back 3 years ago, and even now, I mean, we have one of the highest cutoffs especially in the St. Louis area for gifted services. And even though in gifted programs you're targeting 3 to 5%, when we're hitting 12.6% of our district, it is one of those things where a gap was caused. If you look at us compared to other districts in the area, other other similarly performing districts. Their cutoffs, if I were to go just one of the areas, would be cognitive ability or IQ, is the 95th percentile or 125. If you go back 3 years ago, we were a hard 132 cutoff. And that causes quite a discrepancy in a couple different areas. So we started looking at it more flexibly so we could sort of try to eliminate some of that gap between what's possible to be able to offer services to more students. Because one, I believe in gifted services and that it's good for kids, and that the fact is that the more kids that we can find that require gifted services, the more we can help them. So that would be one of the largest aspects of the growth. The talent development actually has, if I look at the first year's data, so looking at last year, what was great is that we had 35 students that were actually receiving targeted instruction, and the front loading that I referenced, and out of the 35, 15 at the end of the year were the teacher that was working with them stated, you know, we really should look at them more in depth and possibly look at them for gifted services. And then after going through and actually assessing, we found 7 students that wouldn't have been picked up through our traditional screening methods. And so it's one of those things where we're doing a better job of looking at students as individuals, not just numbers on a page. And that's actually allowing us more flexibility in how we're actually identifying students that are in need of services.
Applaud you for that.
Oh.
So that's great news.
Thank you. Did that answer your question okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
What are the 4 schools where you're doing the pilot?
4 schools: Kellison, Bowles, Baldwin, and Westridge.
You seen at the,
Can you say that again?
what kind of changes have you seen at those schools in terms of numbers or students?
So numbers of students, we haven't seen a dramatic change in number of students. What we have seen is actually a really, and this is actually great by teachers, because if you're familiar with gifted education and you go through an education teacher preparation and look at gifted education, basically gifted ed is like 30 minutes of one class for a gen ed certified teacher. To become gifted certified, you have 23 hours of graduate level work that you've had to do, which, by the way, is now being reduced to 18 starting in August. If you want to talk to me about that, I can talk to you about that for days. But one of the things that's been happening, which has been great, is the teachers at those 4 schools in the 1st and 2nd grades have really started looking at students in a different light and really looked at them in different ways, to where they're having conversations with the teacher that we're sending out that's actually highlighting just different students than we've traditionally always looked at for gifted. And so I would say the philosophy and also just the realistic aspect of what gifted looks like in a classroom is becoming more updated and changing, and people seem really open to looking at students in a different way. Is that everything? So, Sade, there we go. And next up is Sade. Thanks.
Hi. So I'm Sade Pearson, and so I'm super excited to be here just because the last time that I spoke about this team, it was the inception of it, which was in 2018. And so originally it was called Rockwood Behavior Intervention Team, RBIT. It has since been changed to Cubs. And so there's been a couple of people in the district, not going to call any names, who have asked or kind of ventured into altering the title to be CARD. So we're working on that. I got a couple of bids with a couple of principals on how to make that happen. But nonetheless, CUB stands for Coaching Up Behaviors for Success. As you'll see at the top, you'll see our values. And so we live by collaboration, student success, and diversity. One of the things that is really unique about this team is, as we really thought through the mission from 2018 and just kind of progressing, and I've always been part of it, one of the things that we really wanted to lean on is to ensure that we built team capacity. And so that it wasn't just a matter of a team coming in and helping with the student, but actually building capacity and skill sets of our staff, our families, and not just teachers, but administration, counselors, social workers, and we just really touch every angle. And so within that, you'll see for the mission that really is to increase the educational team ability to practice, but even promote growth mindset. But then you'll see also that equitable access to the learning environment for students despite their variability and challenges and needs. And within that, a lot of the work we do is based on behavior analytic methodology, which I do want to highlight is extremely unique here in the district. When we look at behavior analysts in the educational setting, they are typically in special ed. Our team functions on general education. And so because of that, though we are all for our kids, we do try to make sure that the students that we support, we at least have over 50% of students that are non-disabled or not identified with an IEP or 504. That really is to be able to support teams with students and systems to ensure that kids are not being identified due to their responding to an environment versus an actual disability or need. And so because of that, we are truly one of the only teams, not just in the region that functions on the general education side, but really I only know of one other team in the United States of behavior analysts that function on the general education side. So I think just to say the least, as a board and as a district, you guys have done wonders in making this happen. Our levels of supports as we go through, many times people think about behavior supports as only a student level. We have expanded, so we support student level, class level, meaning that if there's a teacher that has a need with multiple needs or just learning how to do classroom management, we support that. We have also supported grade level and team level. And then even building level, so looking at if there's difficulty in a commons area, how students are transitioning in and out of the hallways, different components, how teams are collaborating in their staff meetings, we have supported with all of that. Anything that comes down to behavior and what people do, we support. The other component is professional development, and so you'll see that we hit professional development on all levels. If you were to scan that QR code, you'll be able to see different graphs. I'm going to actually talk us through a couple of them really quick. So what you'll see, again, I'm a behavior analyst, so data is my jam, but I've also had a couple of teammates that, because they love visual analysis, they've also helped me with the graphs. So looking at this graph, what you will see is, it may look a little busy, but I'm just gonna highlight a couple of things. As you see that black line and there's a circle and a square, what you'll notice is that closed circled is the hired Rockwood School District hired behavior analyst versus that square being contracted behavior analyst. So this team started with just me, and we had a paraprofessional that supported it. There was a high turnover on the paraprofessional level, and so over the years we really worked at what data do we need, what outcomes do we need to support the need of growth of behavior analysts, which is a very different expertise than someone who just does well with behavior. And so as you see over the years that we have not only increased our number of behavior analysts being on the K through 12 level, but we've also been able to, as we looked at it, contracting behavior analysts, we've dropped that total number and increased our hired on, because we just know that it builds capacity and it ensures that people stay on the team, and it becomes really hard when you're training every year new people. And so this year we have 7 on the school age side from kindergarten through 12, and then we also have maintained and support our early childhood behavior analysts in the early childhood setting. The other thing that you'll see as you look across the numbers is just services support numbers versus total service referrals. So for the most part, as you would expect, we have more referrals than we have services. Sometimes that is for different reasons. Students' behaviors have shifted, teams have had different outcomes, or even more so in some instances, we just had a couple of wait lists as we maneuver through just because our numbers are still low as we're comparable to the need of the district. The other piece is that we've worked really hard for total professional development. If you look at the orange, it's going to look very varied. It really has leaned in on schools selecting us to come train them. Some schools have done a series of training. Some have done a one and we're good, just this one area. But what I will say is that over the years, I've found that our trainings have become more targeted. And so because of that, when we look at even this year, that many times instead of just going in and doing a training, we're actually observing classrooms. We're looking at the culture of the school so that every training that is presented on any department and any school level is truly targeted for that team and that group, and we saw better outcomes with the application of the learning. Another graph page. So this part, what you'll see is just at the top, you'll see your service support numbers per an educational level. I'm not going to lean too much into it other than you'll see a lot of blue, and that's elementary. As we've gone through, many times in that 18-19 school year, our service support did look more collaborative versus individual student supports and classroom levels. And then you'll see it kind of drops off. That was mainly just because in 18-19, we really leaned in on a couple of middle schools who asked us to come out versus just being present. As we've gone through, we've actually experienced that middle school has started to reach out more for us, and we've actually been able to support not just on a professional development level, but student level, class level, and building level. And so that has been cool to see. The other component is you don't see a lot of gray. So high school is still trying to figure out how we can support them, and so we're just going to keep having conversations and extend into that area. And then what you'll also see is that yellow for early childhood. Though we have 2 behavior analysts in the early childhood, we realize that there's still a need of support because we do have 3 centers. And so whenever the Cubs team actually takes on or leads a case on early childhood, then we kind of label that as a Cubs lead versus just early childhood. So I just want to give clarity for that. But elementary has been consistent in wanting us to support, and we're just really trying to extend the language that we are more than elementary and yet can support every level. What you'll see at the bottom right, or at least my bottom right, depending where you're sitting, is student service referral demographics. So there was a point that we started pausing and going, who's being referred to Cubs? Because we are a behavior support, and so that can lend a lot of different thoughts and opinions on who to refer to us. I know it's a lot of numbers, but what I do want to say is this. What you see represented is black students versus white students, male versus female. It's not that we have not services students of other races, cultures, or components of gender relation. It's more of this is just the greatest number that we've been referred to us. So when you look at that, what you'll see is that the black male, you'll see that typically with the black male without a disability or an IEP 504 has typically over the years had a high level of referral to us. And then as you kind of look at the comparison, the other end to that is what you'll see that's typically higher is a white male with an IEP or 504. And so I know sometimes people go, interesting. I think I've already heard a little bit of that. One of the things that we've seen is that though, of course, there's numbers in some of the other pieces, is that typically our black males and the white males with IEPs, from our experience and interacting as they maneuver, are very responsive to their environment and have a voice and want to be heard. And sometimes that response and how they maneuver is not always well accepted when we think about their interactions with others. And so a lot of the work that we have done as a Cubs team is not necessarily to change students' culture. It's not necessarily to change who they are, but what we really do is leaning into dignity and belonging that the district is doing a lot of work on, is that we literally connect to every person that touches that student in every building or in their building, along with the family, and we support in helping to build an understanding, helping to connect to how to make school positive and rewarding for them, and then also how adults can shift and move, but then we also give them the skill sets on how to maneuver through their environment in a way that is effective. And so those are just some of the key components that I just wanted to lean in on as you look at the data, and just thinking about the fact that when we think about behavior supports, in general, males are more highly referred to us than any other gender. And so within that, the other last things that I just wanted to highlight is that I do have graphs as it relates to the impact of our work as it relates to discipline. So when we have data that looks at the amount of discipline that students receive prior to us supporting an intervention versus post. So if that is something that you would like to have, I do have access to that and can give that to you all, and it might also be through that scan. The other piece is that sometimes the question is, well, what type of behaviors? What are you guys working with? And so I also have a graph on that, and it varies anything from school refusal up to running out of a building and fights and things of that, and everything in between. So if that is something that you guys would like to see, I also have data on that. The last few things that I just wanted to highlight that I think is exceptional about my team as we've grown is that we are more than just behavior interventionists on just a targeted level. Many of my teammates function as mentors. They're champions for students that we currently don't service at every level. So I have teammates that's meeting with high school students for lunch. I've had teammates that supported the start of a STEP team in the district. And I've also had teammates that have collaborated with different grade levels to build social skills group for students that we're not even servicing. And so just to know that we have expanded and touched it in so many other areas. The other thing is, as we look at Cubs' next steps, one of the key things is being able to support teams to learn when to call us in. We've learned with our data reflection that the sooner we get in there, the better the outcomes are. And it's not as much as undoing or having to restore relationships because we're earlier in. So that's one of our things, collaborating in systems in the buildings and in the classroom so that they are flexible and they're accepting and building of all cultures and connections, and yet students can support that. And the last piece is that we will, as a Cubs team, continue to work with our EA department, social worker, curriculum, gifted. We referred a lot of kids for gifted this year, connected them and identified them, and really just ensuring that at every time that we support a student, we're looking at the whole student and every angle of support, and so we lead in that collaboration piece. So that's Cubs.
Oh, I have some questions. Do you think your team of 7 is enough for the district, for our size?
So I would say no.
Okay.
Though we have a greater number than any other district, so we're leading in that capacity. The only reason why I would say no, that we're not enough, is just that every year we do end up with a wait list. And so right now we have 3 on wait lists. And so within that component, again, sometimes we try to navigate that wait list. So sometimes I've tried to collaborate with the principal, but really going shoulder to shoulder with the team is more effective than just kind of verbal collaboration. So as we continue to move forward, it would be ideal to continue to grow it, and nonetheless, we're working with what we have.
My other question, you mentioned the behavior has shifted for students. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I think that what we've seen is in some instances where we just see this kind of immediate reactionary. So like sometimes you say this and I'm just upset, so I may be quiet, I may just walk out. We're seeing more of this vocal protest, some more of like what we would kind of find as the physical protesting or responding, maybe is the best way to say that. The other piece is that I just know for my team as we navigate it is that there also has seemed to be more of a greater increase of just kids refusing not to go to certain classrooms or not to walk into the building. And so that has been a shift for us. Not necessarily that it has never happened before, but the frequency and the level and the presence of it on the different grade levels have definitely shown to be more present.
Okay, I have one more question on that.
Absolutely.
Where are you guys located?
Oh, love your question.
Yeah.
So my team is based out of Ridge Meadows. That just means that we have a classroom there that they can work out of at any time, and so thank you, Ridge. And then my office is technically at Stanton Elementary. That's also where my kids are, but in the system, we are showing up under the annex, just because at any point, those classrooms can become student classrooms. Like we're in a kindergarten classroom. So those classrooms could potentially be utilized, and then we're back figuring out where we're going. So our location is not set in stone every year. It's just based off of the attendance in that school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I would love to see the data. If you can send the additional data, please do.
Absolutely, I can do that.
What's the timeline and process? If I am a part of the multi-tiered system, I'm assuming that that's where the referral process comes for Cubs through that. So what's the timeline? So let's say that this team determines we need help with kid X. How quickly are you in that building to do some evaluation and moving forward to get some support?
Great question. So from the moment that we get the referral ticket, which is a super easy ticket on our website, we make sure to get feet into the building within 2 days, or ideally no longer than 4. And so that foot into the building is literally just to get acquainted with the building, to know who's who, and just to get a feel for the people. And so from there, from that moment, then we schedule what is called a referral meeting. And so from the referral meeting to the day that we wrap up or fade out, that full time could be a minimum of 6 weeks through that process, and then we just move based on the need. I think what is unique is because we're behavior analysts, our ethical guidelines require, not the district, but our ethics require that we have to have signed consent in order to speak about a specific student or a student need despite being hired in a position. And so what we do is we just get in on those within the first 4 days to get familiar and do general observations, and then once we do the referral meeting, we try to get consent there. And then that immediately initiates our student-specific content and moving forward. And we also work very closely with the special ed team whenever we're looking at behavior assessments and things of that sort if a student has special ed services.
So how many days a week would someone on your team, if there was kiddo at Staten Elementary, how many days a week would you see someone on your team in that school supporting that student?
Great question. So it definitely depends on the need and what the behavior or the concern is. But days of the week, most of the time my team is in buildings anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week, sometimes 5. I try to give them Mondays out of the building just because when they are in the building, they're the one less likely to eat lunch. They're the ones less likely to get a break because everywhere that student goes, they support and they coach up. So we coach up recess aides and lunch staff and every angle, everybody that will come in contact. And so usually our Mondays, at least a half day, they're out of buildings just to work on what they need to and refresh and get professional development.
Last question, I promise.
Absolutely.
So I heard 6 weeks, so maybe I'm misunderstanding this. So your goal is after 6 weeks, services, you feel like you've provided the services for those students. Am I understanding that correctly, or do you continue past the 6 weeks?
We're a minimum of 6
Okay,
weeks.
because I was thinking that is really quick to turn. Coming from a classroom,
Yeah.
I'm like, boy, you must work wonders.
Yeah,
So,
no, we're
okay.
a minimum of 6 weeks. And what I would also lean in on is that a lot of our work is to ensure that teams have the skill set and capacity. So we're leaning into administration, we're leaning into social workers and counselors to be able to fully implement a student's plan. And so sometimes our ability to fade out may be their level of engagement. Sometimes it may be also the variability of medication versus not. Parent engagement has typically been high in our process, which is a gift that we have. And so it's a minimum of 6 weeks, but we definitely go off of the data and progress. So usually we don't fade out if it's not just, oh, everything has been extinguished, but if there is a decline in the concerning behaviors and increase in the appropriate behaviors that they need to succeed, and the team has shown fidelity in implementing the plan, then we start talking about wrapping up so that they can build that capacity and function without us in building. You're welcome.
I think it's important that what you're saying is that you're not there to fix anything or fix anyone. This is a team effort, and you're coaching up the capacity of our teachers and administrators to also work with our students. And that really is what should be the whole community working for our students. So I think that that's the exact right way to handle it, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Yes,
It
it
takes
has been
perseverance to stay in there and do it.
I appreciate that. And at the end of the day, what we found is many times due to interactions, it's just a damaged relationship. Kids move for people that they have relationships for, and adults move for kids that they have relationship for, and families move for school teams that they have relationship for. So a lot of our work is looking at what behaviors will build those relationships. And again, it's back to the system versus the student. Next is Amy Ware.
Welcome back.
Why, thank you. I think I said you were going to get sick of me tonight. So one of our main accomplishments so far this year with administrative support, we have a much better compliance number on our vaccines, which is a state law that we have our students be compliant with the vaccine schedule or properly exempted from those vaccines. June 12th, when our Infinite Campus calendar rolled, we had 2,168 students for the coming school year that were non-compliant. And I will say last year at the end of the school year, we still had around 300 who were non-compliant. So now we are down to about 60 students. I didn't check it today because I knew I couldn't change the slide today. But that also includes our students who get itinerant services, so they may not even be on our campuses, our virtual students, some that are only in SSD buildings. And we did hold a vaccine clinic just today. And that was in preparation for next year, really. We did had juniors coming in getting the vaccine that's required for senior year. So we have another one tomorrow and 2 more next week that will hopefully accomplish the same things, and we will hold those throughout the summer. The August ones will be crowded. Today's was not crowded, so it's typical of how it works, though. Achievements this year, just some of the things that your nurses are doing great work. We have 28, which is 59% of our nursing staff who are now nationally board certified school nurses. I would venture to guess there is no other district in this state that can say that. Part of that is in part to, there was a grant offered by the Department of Health and Senior Services that offered that they could do the test course prep and take the test for free last fall and this spring. And so I know we had several that took advantage of that. So that increased our numbers pretty drastically, but it's something I'm very proud of. I Thrive Vision Van was recently at Westridge Elementary, hosted by their amazing nurse there. 38 students, and to qualify for this event, you have to be free and reduced lunch. And so we had 38 students who received eye exams and glasses. And so most of them got 2 sets of glasses, which is amazing. And if in the next 2 years they are broken or lost, they can be replaced by this organization. So it really is an amazing organization. There's a few of them that their prescription was complicated enough that they have to be made off-site. They can't be made in that van that day, but they will be mailed to the school, and the school nurse will hand those out to those students. Angela Ost, who is our amazing school nurse at Westridge, was awarded the Missouri Association of School Nurses School Nurse of the Year. And Alyssa Brueggemann, who's at Kellison, has been awarded the Nationally Certified School Nurse of the Year, and so that's a national award. She will also be attending the Leadership Academy that is just prior to the national she was invited to attend the Leadership Academy that's just prior to the national conference in Chicago this summer. And our early childhood, their nurses there are so amazing. They celebrated Rare Diseases Day. Rare diseases is something that is defined by the World Health Organization, and they wore stripes was the theme. Anything striped counted as being a part of celebrating Rare Diseases Day. So they all had really cute shirts, and they have several students enrolled. We have several students enrolled in our early childhood program who do have diseases that qualify as rare diseases. So it was fun to see the pictures of. As far as numbers, this is the kind of summary I usually give you. Last year, since it's a full year of data, and my current year's data is only through the end of February, we had 192,000 plus visits to the nurses' offices, 80,000 plus medications administered. 95% of those students return to the learning environment after visiting the nurse. Now, some of those would be expected, right, if they're just coming in for a routine medication or they've got a scraped knee or something. But, I mean, there's data out there all over the country that school nurses keep nurses in school as opposed to going home for things that they don't really need to. They're not a danger to themselves or others to be in the classroom environment. So this year, 105, as of the end of February, 105,000 plus visits to the nurse's office and almost 46,000 medications administered, and that 95% returning to the classroom held true. And that's been a pretty steady number for as long as I've been tracking it, quite frankly. Students with special needs, so these are a lot of our students that might qualify for like a 504. We have just over 900 students with a life-threatening food allergy. Marquette administered an EpiPen just today. 1,800 plus students with asthma, and asthma is the #1 leading cause of children missing school when they have exacerbations. So 68 students with type 1 diabetes and 7 students with type 2 diabetes. That's something that's really jumped in the recent years. And our type 1 diabetes, that stays fairly consistent, although in the 20 years I've been here, it's grown a lot. 174 students with seizure disorders, and another growing area, the 1471 with students that have either anxiety or depression. That is also something that's grown tremendously in the past few years. Moving on to the wellness part of my job. Wellness policy 1820, this slide is just sort of a synopsis of the work we have done to date, plus the plan moving forward, presuming the next agenda item moves forward and gets approved eventually. So I won't read that all to you, but if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you, Ms. Romberg, for staying on our committee. If no questions, I'm going to hand the mic over to Dr. Suggs.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. All right. So we tried to squeeze as many pictures as we could on the 2-page PowerPoints that we have, just to kind of show you where we've been throughout the district this year. And by we, I mean myself and my secretary, which really, thank God, she is willing to come with me with different things, but we are stretched with the two of us, and you'll see why, because all the things that we're doing. The first, everyone knows about Meet Me in St. Louis. I hope you'll come out again this year. And don't forget, Director Romberg, you did say that you'd have a prize for the best dressed school table. Will we make sure that we're announcing that?
I'm sponsoring that.
Yes, you are sponsoring, and they're excited about it. So I can't imagine what's going to come out of that. So what we've added to Meet Me in St. Louis is a health component, and we did team up with Amy Weir, and was such a blessing because she did immunizations there. And it was amazing to me how many people lined up for immunizations. You would think that that wouldn't be something they'd want to line up, but it was almost as long of a line as the face painting. And so we did that. We had a dentist come out, and she gave away flyers for people to get a free filling or cleaning or extraction. She whispered the word extraction because kids didn't want to know that, and that was going to be done at a different site. With this year, we're going to have an optometrist as well. And then we have, of course, our wonderful schools that come out, and we have some student services departments that come out as well. So thank you. We hope you'll be there. That will be August 6th at the World's Fair Pavilion. REPAC and RSOC. REPAC is our parent group that we meet quarterly, and then Rockwood Staff of Color is we meet quarterly too, basically. And those are two groups that were my predecessor created, and it's a way for us to support our parents in our community, which is phenomenal. We've changed it and have more theme focus this time. I think we kind of just came and met before, and then we had discussions, but we do it more theme focused. We have one we focus on special education, one on dignity and belonging. We just had one on parenting tips. We have some of our parents here that attended it, and it was a great time. And we just had the opportunity to talk about communicating with your children. So we're trying to really offer it more as a service and give parents things to support them in their role as being a parent. And then I attend regional cohort meetings for job alike, and that's been a tremendous blessing. I learned a lot of things that other districts are doing, some insight and some ways that I can improve what we're doing here, so I really enjoy that. And then just to kind of move through it quickly, EEA and the Special Education Department with Dr. Carmen Harris and Dr. Jamie Smith, we're working together. We're doing our equity access walks. You've probably heard about some of that. It started when my sister Emily and I went this summer to all the schools. In the elementary school, Lorinda Cry had let us know that she had an individual in a wheelchair that could not get out on the playground and had not been able to go for four years. And so we looked at, what does that look like? So I reached out to Carmen and Jamie, and we started walking different elementary playgrounds where those principals reached out to us with facilities. And we came up with a plan, and I'm happy to say that there were 7 schools, and I think we've already completed 5, maybe 6. Now those children can get out there on those playgrounds with their wheelchairs or their walkers, and we're so excited. And Chris Friend and his facilities department, hats off to them. They jumped right on that. And on top of that, Baldwin had reached out to me and said, we need a lift. This is the oldest building since 1938, I believe, and we can't get people up and down if they can't take the stairs. They have a student next year, and then when behind them coming, we have parents, we have community members that come. She said, can you help us, please? We got to talking again with her, with Chris Friend Facilities, and they're getting that lift. So they're so excited. She said they've been wanting it for years and years and years, and that's going to happen. Again, hats off to facilities, and it's nothing better than collaboration. So I want to say that right up front. It sounds like we alone are doing a lot of the things, but it's collaboration, it's communication that's getting it done. On-site school visits with student and parent support, so I'll get calls. I work again with my colleagues as Ms. Pearson, I have rigged it on here, I'm sorry, but Ms. Pearson reaches out and say, hey, Cassandra, this is a situation, a parent needs some help, can you help? Obviously we do, we jump right to it. We had someone recently reach out, they speak a different language. It is on Infinite Campus, but a child was disciplined and they didn't understand. And so I got involved. We got the interpreter. Not only did we get the interpreter, we set up a meeting with all the individuals that were involved. The child was able to get support, and now mom will be getting all of her literature in Spanish as well as phone calls. They will have interpreters for that. And then it's an opportunity for us to work with different principals at schools to say, hey, this is mandatory. It is in compliance with the law. If a parent has on there a different language than English, we have to get paperwork home to them. So just another way to update and improve, and that's what we want to do. We want to work with schools, not against them, so we're excited about that. Puppet shows, we have had a great time with our puppet show. We have some special guests. Miss Mignette has come, Miss Romberg, Miss Clark, Miss Betcher has come as well. We've had some wonderful guest performers, and we've loved it. We were at capacity. You can see some up there with the puppet shows. We sent out a list for it, and then we had to add more, because schools, once we started doing it and heard about it, we squeezed some more in, but at some point we were like, whew, it was just a lot for 2 people. We love it, but we couldn't get it all in. So next year we're hoping to try to spread out some more. We'll need some more volunteers and whatever that takes to get our staff to be able to do these shows. We have a survey that goes out. We certainly get you that data if you want, that we send out every time we come to a school. And we say, what can we do differently? What did you like about it? Any suggestions? And I'll tell you, the only feedback of improvement was, can it go longer? I'm like, no. 20 minutes with both hands up in the air, yeah. Extremely difficult. We can't go longer, but we can't come back again. So that is something that we will make sure we do next year. Adding more of those is, we don't want to start something and then be like, I'm sorry, we can't do it because we don't have enough people. Like, that's not right. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen effectively. Our EEAD, Twist on Words, we're going in on this semester. So last semester was puppet shows. We're going in and reading to elementary schools. We're allowing them to tell us what type of books, what's going on in schools you want us to read about. And we're bringing in different diverse books, different books about, the last one was about yoga and some mind relaxations. And then we had the kids getting up. I think you might have seen it in our wonderful communications department, did an article on it. It was a great time. The kids just get locked in. I bring a little 8x10 of myself when I was 5 years old. It's really cute. And I put it up there, and I tell them I was a kid too, and I liked reading, and they talk to little Cassandra, and they bring her in the group. It is the cutest thing. But it's another way for us, our department, to get into schools, to support students, and give the teachers a break, because they send them to us, we read to them for 30 minutes, and they go back, and it gives the teachers a little bit of a break. High school freshman orientations, we went to all of those. That was a great fun. Dr. Kane would not let me do any cartwheels or flips. He said he was not going to be responsible for me having broken bones, so I just did a high kick instead, and that went over well. But that's always a lot of fun. High school student groups, that is, as Sharday mentioned, that we come in for support in a fun way, like step shows or social groups. But we also come in to support. So if there are student groups that are struggling, we come in and we talk with those student groups and try to build capacity and build relationships. The Dr. Billy Mayo Awards, we're going to be doing that this month and next month, $500 to students in each school that participate in the VIC program, one for outstanding student and one for outstanding academics. And that's a wonderful time. Our department pays for those as well. And you see we collaborate with Sharday Rignan. I did talk about that with the translator, but let me tell you about the snacks. So she reached out to me and said, hey, Cassandra, I was in a school, they had mandatory snack time, child sitting there not eating snacks. They're hungry. I don't like seeing that. I don't think any child should not have snacks. So we reached out to the elementary principals, we reached out to Dave Cobb, thank you, Dave Cobb, and said, how can we help? And we ended up getting a spreadsheet out, and we told every school, let us know what you need, and we'll send snacks. So we got a hold of Sam's Club and ordered boxes of snacks for every single school. Now, no child misses a snack, and we did say it doesn't matter. It's any socioeconomic background. We don't want anyone missing, and please don't let it be punitive. We don't want to punish a child because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. They may be acting up because they're hungry. Please, please, please get everyone a snack, and that's been great. And I thank you for all of my partners that helped us to pull that off. It's been wonderful. Next slide. EEA We Find a Way grant, that came out of that, the one I just told you. We've done over 30 of those grants. One was to get a bus with a lift for a school that a student had a wheelchair. They were going on a camping excursion. We went out to, sent an email out to all the elementary and middle schools doing the book fairs and said, you're doing a book fair, we don't want a child not to have a book. Send us the list of numbers, not names, of students who may need support with books, and then we sent money, and we either put it in through their accounts or however was the best way for them to receive the money, and we made sure that no child is like, oh, I have a stomachache, I'm not going to the book fair, because they don't have money. So another way for us to use our money, our goal is to use all of our money up for students and staff before the end of the year, because that's what we want to do, support them. We've had grants where we've helped with computers. Again, Dave Cobb for some Hispanic students that were working in tutoring out of a trailer. You name it, really. If they call us and ask, we try not to say no. I mean, why would we? So we do that with our grants, and we just like the name EEA, we find a way, because we find a way. We do go out and take pictures. You see that one up there when someone gets the grant, just so that the community knows what we're doing. We do not take pictures with children that were in need. So we had a young lady whose mom reached out because she wanted to go to Smoky Mountain trip. And is it Rocky Mountain, Smoky Rocky Mountain? Smoky Mountain, okay. And they didn't have the money. So we gave the money for the child, but when we got into the school, we just took a picture with the principals, because we don't want to put that out there, that child was the person in need. College night, that was fun. We went down, we teamed up with Ivy Hartman at Rockwood Summit High School, and went down to Queenie Park. Dr. Kane came and spoke to our students that were in the big program that came on a different bus, and just kind of talked about community and belonging. And we had a great time at the college night. We helped support them with food and pizza for the children who took the bus that were in the big program, because they had to come early and stay longer. We provided food for them, and Dr. Kane came and spoke to them. Welcome Home is a program. You mentioned, Ms. Mignette, about the kind of grow your own. This is a part of that. Welcome Home was way before my time with Dr. Rebele and Dr. Tracy Edwards. They started this. They saw a need that we needed to have more minority candidates. We just were not getting them. So why not have some type of scholarship for our juniors and seniors that are going to major in education, that we give them some money to support them. So they already started that. Thank you so much, Dr. Rebele. And then this year, I reached out to Dr. Rebele because I saw it in some files, and she was like, yes, and she connected me with Kelly Solberger, and we got it started back up again. We have a committee, and we had one student that was still in college that was a part of this. And so originally you get $1,000 a year, so $4,000, which isn't a ton of money, but it's something. Well, we still had $10,000 because we only had the one student. And he needed money to pay for his student teaching. Literally was probably not going to go back because you have to pay for those credit hours. Well, we paid for it, and he was hired. He did a student teaching at Green Pines, and I want to say Crestview was one of the middle schools. And then there was an opening, and he applied, and he got the job. You all know that because you approved it. So we have a success story. Welcome home, Edris Emmanuel. So thank you. Yay. Money well spent. Very, very excited. CSIP Building Goals Collaboration, really, really excited to team up with Dr. Willott on this. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of the process. It's been wonderful. She, Glenn, myself, and Dr. Skeeters, we meet together, and then we go and we talk over in the fall, and then again in the spring with all the schools about their CSIP plans. And the feedback has been tremendous. They've been telling Dr. Willott, and I can attest to this, as a building principal, you get this goal sheet in August or whatever, and it's done, it has to be due by September 30th, and you're rushing to get it done, and then you really don't peek back at it throughout the rest of the year, if you're being honest. You may glance at it, but you don't sit down and study it. The way that Dr. Willott has set it up now is that not only are we helping them to set it up, they can call us and we talk to them that first time we meet with them, but then we're doing follow-up and checking up how is it going, what's going right, what can we support you with. And I love it because at the end, Dr. Willott says the same thing, and what else may we help you with before we leave? And it's just been great. We're getting a lot of miles in, so if you see those mileage reports, thank you for approving them because they are true. We get a lot of miles in around the district, but it is wonderful, and all of the principals have said the same thing. They say thank you to Dr. Willott for setting this up for us and to have this opportunity. Equity ambassadors, they used to be the DEI champions. We have changed that program some as well. We still have the teachers from every school, and we meet quarterly as well. We're getting ready to have our last meeting next week. You're always welcome if you ever want to peek in and see what's going on. This time we're going to have the same person that came to our parent meeting come talk about communication skills, but it's going to be more about in your classroom and to your parents. And then Dr. Donette Whisker is going to come and do a presentation as well. So again, quarterly with themes, and we really enjoy it. Their feedback has been phenomenal as well. They also went through dignity and belonging training. So we're just trying to make sure we give those teachers the support they need to go back and continue our support of our dignity and belonging. A monthly podcast, we've had some great guests. Dr. Kane was our first guest. He's going to be our last guest. You can't really stump him. I might try this time and see if I can, but it's difficult. We had Jamie Bays on as well. We've had lots of community community guests, we've had parents. We just have a lot of fun on that podcast. As most of you know, I had a former career in broadcast television, so for me that's a natural thing, but it's so wonderful to be able to bring those skills to our district. And then posted Curtis in communications does our videoing. Mary's come to a couple of them. We just have a wonderful time. And we are famous for one take. I'm just saying, we get it done in one take. And it's like it's live, so I run a tight ship. But it is another way visually for us to get to a community. We have a monthly newsletter. When I was at Wildwood Middle School, I used to do a weekly newsletter. It was a video newsletter, then the information would be underneath. And parents were always enjoying that. And so when I went into this role, a parent said to me, can you still please do your videos? I was like, oh, I'll figure out a way. So we do it monthly. We have a monthly newsletter. You are on that newsletter link. You should be able to get that information. We had Jamie Bays on as a guest once, so if you want to come on, she came on and talked about Rockwood Gives Back. Please do so. I love having guests on our video, and really it's just a way to be personal. Sometimes people don't want to read through the information, but they do want to know it. And I don't know if my voice is annoying to them or not, but they do keep tuning in, so that works. New teacher orientation, which has been changed to new teacher onboarding now. We work with them as well. We do a presentation. We talk to the new teachers about what our department is because it has changed. Dr. Kane had the vision of educational equity and access, and with him and with Dr. Hankins' support, we've been able to really broaden our reach and really truly reach all kids and all staff members for that matter. And so we're coming and telling them about what we do and letting them know we exist. Dignity and Belonging Consulting for 2025. We'll talk more about that next week, but as you know, working with John Cronapple, it's been a phenomenal success. We've heard nothing but positive feedback from our schools, from our teachers that were involved. It's been a great partnership. Thank you, Janet Sandowski, for all of your help. I know you don't want me to say your name, but I have to because she's not going to be there next year doing that for us. We wore her out. So this year coming up, we will be handling that ourselves. So we are doubling up This year we had 6 cohorts in the fall, as you know. Next year we will have 13 cohorts, Steve, in the fall. 2 cohorts, but 13 schools, 16 schools. The number keeps growing. I'm just saying it's 2 of us. Just want to say it one more time. So 16 schools, and then in the spring, 9. Finish them all up. So that's going on in the fall. And thank you, Steve, for all your help and work with that as well. You'll hear more, like I said, next week, but that really, thank you, Dr. King, for bringing that to our district. It has been phenomenal, a phenomenal success, and you were the vision behind that. New and exciting, conflict resolution and mediation services and training. Back in January, I became a certified mediator and trainer in conflict resolution, both nationally and internationally. Thank you, Dr. Kane, again, and Dr. Hankins for supporting that. And with that, the goal was to be able to bring back that training to the district and to our district leaders. I've already had Lynn Mignette whisper in my ear, what about the board? Absolutely. What it is for instance, Dave Cobb reached out to me recently to ask could I come mediate at a school between 2 staff members because the principal reached out. And it's that too. And I did, and we went. It was very successful, and we were able to come to a peaceful resolution. As what they said, those words were, it was peaceful, the walls came down, I feel so good about it, please, thank you, and all of that. And then we were able to help with some other situations in the district, but this summer we'll train over 100 district leaders and over 4 days, and those trainings will be to help our district leaders to understand how to deal with conflicts within their buildings, with their parents, with each other, and it's just a great learning tool. It's 2 hours long, and you also learn for your own life, just your personal relationships, because conflict is natural. I learned a lot of things. I got home recently after I was trained, and my husband was like telling me something, and usually I'll debate him on it. I was quiet. You're quiet. I was like, because I was thinking to myself, because I've learned in conflict resolution that I don't have to have the last word. So it does help personally as well. But if you're interested in finding out more about that, or you want to peek your head in on a training, please reach out to us. We'll let you know when those are going on. Now, Mr. Dennis, may I please see you for a moment, please? I'm sorry, I was going to say Dr. Hankins. Mr. Dennis. So we talked a little bit about our puppet shows, and our very own Director of Security, Ty Dennis, joined us, and that's because we have a puppet named after him called Officer Ty. So we just want to give you a brief kind of example of what our puppet shows look like. And so we're going to go into character. So you have to let us be in character. We are no longer Cassandra and Ty. We are Mia and Officer Ty. And then you may ask your questions. So I'm going to put this down.
Oscars, watch out.
Any questions?
How many are there of you? Just kidding.
There's two. Really, there's one, because I have a second chair, but she just comes out, but there's two. Really one. Just one. One person. Doing a whole lot of work. Loves it, though. Anybody else?
I just appreciate the presentation. A lot of times we don't know. We don't know what you do. We don't know, and we confuse the words and things like that. So understanding anything from just a simple translator will make a parent's life easier. So I just appreciate you shedding light on what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much.
Can you explain that though? How, obviously, without going into details about the person, how did how did you guys get involved?
Thank you. Great question. So there was a discipline situation, and when mom was called about the discipline, they weren't getting an understanding of what happened because they think in Spanish. And when it comes to discipline, there's different words that are used and such, and then there's a consequence assigned. And so they could not ask the questions. They didn't know how to ask the questions like, how long is it? What does that mean for school? How do they still get their studies and such? And so Ms. Rigdon, Mrs. Pearson, reached out to me and said, we have this concern. And a parent isn't understanding. She wasn't reaching out for an interpreter. She was reaching out for me to help the parent understand. But once the parent called and we got to speaking, I looked up the student info on the campus and I saw that it said primary language Spanish. So immediately my thought was, I need to make sure I let the school know that we have to be in compliance. If it says that, we have to get information. It's not a maybe. Even if the parent says, I don't need it, we still want to have it to provide it. So that's how I got involved. And then we had a meeting because she still needed more understanding. And kudos to this high school that jumped in, got the whole team assembled, plus the teachers, and then some health services. And the mom in that meeting just cried. She said, I've been here for 9 years. I never knew I could get an interpreter. I never knew this was available. And so she requested everything to be in Spanish and English, and she was very appreciative of the interpreter, and they'd had a subsequent meeting as well, and those supports were in place as well. You're welcome. Are we good? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
One person.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And if you have any questions for me,
They're doing all.
supervise. It's a skill. Management.
There's a lot happening, and it's very good work.
Thank you.
I can tell you that I ran into him, I think, at every school I've been to the last few weeks with my own daughters. So I know he's working.
At least I look like I am. I'm good at that too. So.
Really appreciate the crossover that your department works with each other. One department supports and interacts with another department. So thank you so much for that leadership.
You're welcome. And I tell you, it's been a great year just getting everyone together, and we meet, and a lot of good conversations, and really a lot of good ideas. If you can tell, we've got incredibly gifted, smart leaders that they're not just experts in their area, but they've got a lot of great ideas in other areas, so that helps. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Todd Mancello and Roxanne Emerson Fox to talk about alternative education. The clicker is yours.
So easy to follow. Puppets. Very excited. I dare you to go back and look at Dr. Suggs' presentation and see if she breathed. Took one breath in that whole thing, and I mean that as a terrific compliment. Yeah. She's like 3 cups of coffee. So there you go. We're going to talk about alternative education and non-traditional learning, and really we're talking about the same students. And we're working with the same students, so I'm so glad that our presentation is tonight. If we don't see or work with Jacqueline and Dr. Suggs and Matt and their whole team, if we don't work together every day, it's at least every week, and so we're talking about the same students, pushing the limits for students, doing everything we can to support students, and blanket students in resources. Anybody that's been in a short meeting with me that I've turned into a long meeting by telling stories will appreciate that I wrote myself some notes and I'm going to stick to them. If you want to come for a 5-minute tour that I will gladly turn into an hour tour by yammering on, I love to talk. I love to tell stories. I love to talk about all the good things we're doing for kids. But forgive me, I am going to stick to the script. I think if I do the script, we're looking at 5 minutes of good information. If I don't, we're probably looking at 50 and maybe here at breakfast. So we're off and running. So what is non-traditional learning or alt-ed? Simply put, the Rockwood School District is constantly looking for ways to add to our students' choice menu. We are always looking to push the envelope to think way, way, way outside the box to spice up our family's educational experience. That's always what it's about, doing more for kids, doing something that students need. I get to work with Dr. Willa a lot to help accelerate some students who need it. For example, some students move in or just haven't had, name the subject, math. And Dr. Willott and I get to put our heads together and figure out how we can get this student to meet their goals and be successful and have all the doors open to them when they graduate. And that could be ramping up. It could be summer school. It could be virtual school, all ways of non-traditional, doubling up on a subject. Home school, home education, and whatever we can do to get students to where they want to be and have every door open for them. And sometimes Dr. Willett and I get to help catch some students up who need it. COVID knocked some students off. There are gaps in learning. We're seeing students move in and out again, and they, the traditional 80%, it's working for 80% of our students, and they follow this path, and it gets them to where they want to be. But for some of our students, we're doing a much better job of meeting students where they are and really reaching out and doing different things for students. Even if it means that we work a little harder to get the students what they need, we're getting great support. And I get to work with Dr. Jansen to brainstorm the best way to re-engage and re-success students who have made some poor decisions or lost their way. Not always, but sometimes we need to put our heads together and using whatever programs we have at our disposal, figure out what is the best placement to get students back into a positive routine. What is the best way to restore relationships for kids and adults, and what is the best way or place or room, whether it's a restore room at a high school or pathways or virtual or whatever we have up our sleeve. How can we get students back on track? And of course, Dr. Kane, Dr. Cobb, everybody really, I believe we are setting the curve in Rockwood on student support. If there's another district doing something different for kids, something extra for kids, something unique for students, we always want to find it. We want to steal it. We want to improve on it. We just always want to push the envelope for student support. We have a lot going on. We try to meet families and students where they are. And again, old school was students went to school from 7:30 to 3, 7:30 to 3:30. They sat in rows. Now, not for 20 years. We've been. I never stick to slides. Sorry, but it was sit in a row, listen to a lecture, go to your next class. And new school is students want more. They want more choice. They want more variety. Our students are unique. Our families are unique. Their educational experience should be unique. We try to meet students where they are with what students can handle in a healthy way. We're getting so much better at being mindful of stress and anxiety and what students are going through and the trauma and the baggage that they bring to schools. And we're doing such a better job of being really a community center instead of just a school, and providing all things for students, or at least having, that buffet of everything's there for students that need it. In Healthway, while providing every resource we can think of, we constantly think of flexibility. How can we do something for students that they need, that some students might not need? And again, and I stress this, even though it might make us work a little bit harder or a teacher work a little bit harder, we're always ready to do that if it really helps the whole child. We talk about hybrid a lot, so a lot of our students, I don't know, maybe it's because of today's society, maybe it's because of COVID, maybe it's because of smartphones or situations. They fall off and they can't handle a 5-day school week and or come to school, or something's happened. So we need to wean them back on and think outside the box and go 1 full day, then 2 full days, and then pretty soon we do have them to build resilience and strength and get back in a routine. So we talk about hybrid a lot, and we talk about individualizing all the time as well. And I could talk about so many stories where we individualize things for students, because a student moving from Clayton or Parkway is different from a student moving with an immaculate transcript from a student coming from a different country that we have to find paperwork on, or Jeff Tamaroff has to look at that transcript and figure out what it means. So we do have to individualize a little bit. There are too many situations to mention all of them, but for example, we currently have 8 middle and high school RSD students who play ice hockey full-time all day long while still attending Rockwood schools through a local partnership. And we do talk about passion a lot, and I think old school alt ed was, if you wanted to be, I don't know, name it, an Olympic diver or a horseback rider, or if your passion was chess, you had to go there away from your family, away from your friends, to experience that or to get the best. Now we can keep a lot of those students at Rockwood with their families, with their friends, have that experience, and yet while they're passionate about whatever they're doing. And we're doing that through a local partnership. Also, we have this year over 800 students, grades 1 through 12, taking at least one course virtually to supplement their education. Our students have taken over 2,000 virtual courses this year alone, and virtual is here to stay, love it or like it or not. Colleges have virtual classes, and they're really pushing those. College students tend to like those classes. Again, whether we like it or not, that is a skill that our students need. I think every student who graduates at Rockwood should have to, in the next couple of years, take one virtual course at least, just to know how to use those skills in Canvas and time management and all those things, because that is that is going to be in our future. We have so many wonderful programs striving to meet the mental health needs of our wonderful students. One of these programs, still fairly new, we're in our 2nd year, is Pathways. Everything we do is only as good as the people involved and the relationships we build with students. Luckily at Pathways, we are blessed with truly awesome, dedicated people, and one of those is Mrs. Roseanne Fox. She's going to talk some details about Pathways.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate to talk about Pathways and the specialness of Pathways. So I'll go through some slides. I hope that you've been able to have an opportunity to look at that. But the PWC's Pathways Wellness Center, the primary focus is on mental health. And so what does that really mean? What that means is when a student is referred to the Pathways Wellness Center, We work on stabilizing the mental health symptoms, we work on supporting those symptoms, and then we work to prepare them for whatever their educational journey will take them. So that may mean returning to the high school, that may mean going to adulthood, that may be entering into competitive employment. So we work on supporting, stabilizing, and preparing them. We do that in a different couple of ways. And what I would love for you to take away from this slide are two takeaways. One is that multi-tiered level systems of support do not stop when a student enters pathways. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we're doing academic interventions, where we're doing math interventions, reading recovery type of interventions. We're doing some live classes this year, doing online learning, doing all kinds of things that would support the academic needs of our students while supporting the mental health needs of our students as well. So we have daily SEL, social emotional learning, programming for our students. And then we want to make sure that our mental health supports are realistic and relevant to our students. So what that means is we're making sure that we are providing them services that they feel that they need. So you'll see some of our very creative titles to our groups that we have, such as Don't Be a Worrywart, or I would love to say Stinkin' Thinkin', like Dr. Phil would say. But we have these groups that focus on what are the needs the students are identifying, so that we can help them normalize mental health. Everyone has mental health. We all have to learn how to regulate and monitor our own symptoms, and this is the way we teach them, through interest. Growth Garden is a wonderful example that we have, that's a personal interest, and that can be a mindfulness activity of how can we improve our mental health by doing something of interest. Another thing of personal experiences. You know, do you have grief and loss? We have a group for that. Are you struggling with other types of internal challenges? We have a group for that too. So we want to make sure that we are providing social emotional learning that is relevant and important and realistic to our students. Okay. I'm very proud to report, since opening up our doors in August of 2022, we have served 102 Rockwood students. You can see there, I have color-coded things for you, but I'm very proud to say that of the students within our 2 years, 25% of the students have or will be graduating this May. 25% of our students have gotten a Rockwood diploma. 36% of our students have returned to their home schools to continue their educational journeys. Graduation stats, I always would love to say, where are they now? But these, looking at the students from last year and what our students this year are planning to do, we pretty much have graduated through credits and the Missouri options. And we recognize that each of our high schools has Missouri options, but we also at the PWC have been able to provide some instruction, preparation, and transportation for those students to be able to access their degree by Missouri options. Also would like to point out that we are very creative and that we understand that obtaining an education can look different for some students. So we are supporting students who maybe would like to pursue their GED. So being able to prepare them for those tests to be able to take the GED. So this is what it's looking like right now for the last 2 years for our students. Most of our students, 70% of our students of our graduates are entering in competitive employment. I would like to say, though, most of our students are working already and going to pathways on a full-time basis. 15% of our students are being enrolled as a full-time college student. And again, with the competitive employment pie slice, that also represents some of our students who are doing part-time and working as well. So I am very, very excited for the opportunities that our students are having. There should be one more. Oh. All right, this slide isn't there, but some of the common questions that we have. How are you wrapping around our students for supports? And so we have a different type of model. We have academic champions that are our teachers. We have social emotional learning champions that assist our students. So we wrap around from teacher perspective and social emotional specialist perspective to be able to serve the whole child and the whole student. Another question is, how long do you stay at Pathways? And we are designed as a short-term program. So we would like to say that we are preparing our students to return to another educational pathway within 2 semesters. We understand we are an individualized program, so we understand that it may be a little bit longer for some of our students, but that's the beauty of our program, is that we are individualized. Another common question is, how are you doing credits? And how we do that is we assess where every student is when they enroll into Pathways. We try to plan for 3 classes per quarter for them to do, as well as some social emotional learning that they obtain credit, as well as some live classes that we offer at the PWC2. The hope then is that they have the same opportunity to get as many credits as their colleagues do at the high school level. Are there some questions? I would love some questions.
I do have a question.
Yes.
2 questions, actually. One is, on the one slide you talked about the 37 who returned to their home schools. What kind of follow-up do you do to maintain that they're successful there? And what happens if they need to come back? I mean, how does that operate?
That's a great question. So we do have some transition programming with the homeschool. So, of course, we love forms, so we've developed forms, but we do have meetings with the homeschool staff and talking about what are the supports that we have had at Pathways, what do we anticipate the student is needing at their home school, and making sure that those supports are in place when they return.
You stay involved with the student?
Yes.
And my second question is, on the slide where you talk about going to college, are those 4-year colleges or 2-year?
Those are both.
Okay, so it's a mix of the 2.
Yes.
And that's great. I just want to be clear. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for all you do over there. It's a
Thank you.
wonderful opportunity for students.
Thank you.
I had the chance to come to Pathways when we were delivering Rose Awards, and I just want to commend you. The sense of community in that school was amazing. It just warmed your heart. So you guys are doing something special over there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'd like to point out that on the board Student Advisory Council, we have 2 students from Pathways. Amazing. Sorry.
So my gray hair will tell you I've been doing this a long time, but there's always something new. There's always a new story or a new situation that we have to brainstorm on. And I just wanted to tell you, rest assured, we are really pushing the envelope for students and trying to meet the needs of a changing society with non-traditional learning. And that's that.
Brings us to point 03, policy 1820, and I believe Dr. Hankins is going to join us again.
Are we talking about the policy? There's a motion.
There's a motion.
The motion is to postpone approval of changes to policy 1820 wellness until 24 Board of Education meeting.
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, whoops. Right.
Go ahead.
Just discussion. All right. So, if you look through this wellness policy again, when we brought it to light, when we had our DESI audit, which you have every 3 to 5 years, correct? There was suggestions as far as our policy meeting the guidelines for that DESI policy, for the DESI requirements. Our regulation, the way we had it, our regulation had almost all of this in the regulation. So it was a matter of bringing that wording from our regulation into our policy. This was then vetted by Carmen Harris, who also is our food nutrition. Carmen Fisher, I say Carmen Harris. I'm sorry, Carmen Fisher. But working with her, and Amy and I and her worked on this, as well as Cindy Bias also helped us with this. But we sent it also to DESI for kind of have them look it over, make sure they would approve of it. The auditors, they did, and also sent it to our lawyers to make sure they approved of it, and they did. And then we also then had our committee and the district look at it and give us suggestions. And so it's been vetted through that process. And so if you look through it, the green wording, if you find any green wording, that is the changes we made after the committee made suggestions to us, which then we also then resubmitted to make sure they were in line. So any questions for Amy or I?
Will you have to, now that we're going to move these into the regulations and meet all the criteria, will you have to redo the regulations then to also be in alignment?
Yes, once this is, if and when this is approved, we'll go back and redo the regulation. And really it's just, we're not going to be rewriting in the regulation. It's just basically
making sure
striking.
that they're aligned.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And meet the state standards.
And it's not redundant, correct.
Yep.
I'll read the motion again. As to postpone approval of changes to policy 1820 wellness until the May 2nd, 2024 Board of Education meeting. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Point 04. Is a problem issue need a PIN policy for policy 2521, promotion and retention of elementary and middle school students, and new policy 2550, reading success. And the motion is to approve the review of policy 2521 and the development of a new policy 2550.
So moved.
Discussion.
So we're requesting the permission to look at policy 2521. Are we okay? All right, we're requesting permission to look at policy 2521 to ensure that it is reflective of the changes that we've made due to legislation that was passed in August 2022. So Rockwood didn't really have to make a ton of changes when that new legislation came in place because we had reading intervention programs in place, but the policy isn't reflective of the changes that we've already made. So reading is barely mentioned in policy 2521, so we need to make a slight adjustment there, but then it would also require us to do a new comprehensive policy that explains everything about reading success to be in compliance with the legislation.
The new policy would be focused on reading success as opposed to just promote.
Yes.
The language would be more consistent with state language.
Yeah, the state has asked that we have a separate policy that only addresses reading success.
Well, will we retain the retention and promotion policy?
We'll still have that policy. There's just there are a couple lines in there that reference reading that we would need to refer people to the new reading policy.
The motion is to approve policy
Aye.
Opposed? We're now at the point of 8.05, and we're going to talk about the appointment of new board members, policy, and timeline. So, you all should have received some information in board docs, and hopefully everyone had the opportunity to take a look at that information. Are there any questions as far as what has happened historically? I think he had some a little bit of information about that.
Are you asking if you have any questions about the process?
What you received.
Okay. The one question that I do have, and the timeline's very clear, very straightforward. The one question that I want clarified, and that is in the policy itself, it says that the board or committee designated by the board will screen the applicants and will select applicants for board review, for board interview. So I would like it clarified whether the whole board is going to review applicants and select a few to be interviewed, because that's the way this excuse me, that's the way this reads, that they'll be screened and then we'll select applicants for board interview. Is that the correct wording?
When we looked at the policy, and we went back and looked at.
I copied it right here.
Went back in time. It appears that we have interviewed all of the candidates, or all of the people who submitted a packet or information.
Not going to screen anybody.
Within reason. So if 100 people do. What I am suggesting, this is open for our discussion, of course. What I am suggesting is that we try to interview as many people as show interest.
If I may, President Bidget, I believe that policy, as I think it's 2000, so it's been a while since it was first adopted, gave the board some flexibility. I think everything that this board and community have been through, I would strongly urge the board to, as a whole, I would not suggest breaking this out into subcommittee work. It's going to take some time, which makes the identification of the timeline really, really important. So it may take some time, but I think it would behoove this board to do so as a collective.
I'm not proposing to do that, but the wording here says we can or could. I want to make sure that we are all very clear that we're going to review all candidates, or all people that, so applicants is the word, and that the whole board is going to do it. Is that
Agree
correct?
with that. That's how I read it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's very clear to everybody how it's going to operate, yeah.
And would we identify if we're going to interview, let's just say we have an overwhelming response for someone that would love to sit up here in this volunteer role, and we have 50 people, when would we make a decision to pre-screen versus interview all 50? Do we have a board meeting?
Sounds like we're going to interview all of them, though.
I mean,
Within reason.
Within reason.
Right, so
But
when
what
will
is-
we make that decision?
Yeah, what's that reason?
I think you have to wait until after the window is closed and then look at how many applicants are out there. And because the next day after the window closes, all of the board members receive a copy of all of the packets. And then if it's a huge amount of them, in the past, it would be where a conversation would happen. Either it's an open session always in this type of process, and either could be added to the beginning of the second March board meeting, where that conversation could be had by the entire board, or a separate meeting where they would all of you would discuss together about if you're going to go forward with all the candidates and what that looks like.
So it's important to engage in some hypothetical, but I think once we have, as Mrs. Sadowski is suggesting, an idea of the number, we then proceed.
There
But
could
your
be
schedules
3,
are
there could be 10. I mean,
Could
it could be, I've gone back in history and it's never been more than 8, but it's gonna be up to the board to have that conversation after they're all in.
Logistically, given as busy as your schedules are, locking in those dates is really and truly step one. Let's make sure we get those dates so that it can comply with where we'd like to go. I believe the Board of Education would like to ultimately go. Director Clark has provided enough of a timeline here that we can do so, but we've really got to lock in the time frame. That sounds easy. It is not. Just getting you all together is so much easier said than done. So if we can start there, have an idea, let this window open and then close, have an idea of what that number in fact looks like, you can then take the next logistical steps that are needed.
I support that. That's, you know, let's kind of see where we stand on May 7th with the applications. If we can all get, if it's a reasonable number that we can interview on the 28th, 29th, and 30th together as a group, that's fantastic. If we have to then have a group session to say there's too many, we need to pare this down, how do we do that? We can certainly get together as a board with either with a scheduled meeting or an ad hoc meeting to address it.
I agree with Bob, yeah.
Ask a clarification. On the 28th, 29th, and 30th, are we anticipating choosing one of those dates, or are we holding all three of those dates?
I would like you guys to pick one date.
Okay.
Because we've got to get something on the calendar, because when we send these packets out, the people that are going to get interviewed kind of need to know.
Okay.
So when the packet goes out on the 22nd, if you're okay with the 22nd to the 6th being the window, parts of that packet, you can see where I've got it highlighted where those dates need to be filled in, because they need to know when they're going to interview. In the past, what has happened is we've given them 15-minute time slots to interview in the order that they return the packets in, so they would know up front like where that would fall. So these are just suggested dates, the 28th, 29th, and 30th, just to see how all of your calendars look to fill that out, or if we need to go into the following week, we can. It's the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after Memorial Day, and in the past, it's taken 2 to 3 hours for 5 candidates. So
It's an open session.
Yes,
the
this-
entire
all of
process
this
is open.
yes.
Yep, that's what I'm kind of asking tonight, is if you're good with the 22nd to the 6th as the window to post the packets, and then the 7th, the packets go out for review. At that point, you'll know how many there are, but we really do need to narrow down like the main date. But if it gets to where there are a lot of packets and we need to go into a second date, maybe a backup date that we could all have penciled on the calendar, so we're not scrambling trying to get this in.
Clarify on that, I mean, if people can't make both of the dates, how does that work on the board? If you, I mean, we're trying to get all of us there, but it's either you're at both or you're not at either one. If you have a personal conflict, if you're on the board?
If we have to do two, I mean, and hopefully we could do it all in one. I mean, it would be better to do one 4-hour meeting and get it done than to do 2 2-hour meetings.
Absolutely.
I would like to suggest, since Thursdays are kind of our days that we've cleared our calendars for board meetings anyway, that maybe we see if everyone is available on that Thursday.
The 30th.
Are we talking about during the day or in the evening? Yeah.
Totally,
Yeah.
whatever you can make work.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have to clear my work calendar and see where we go, so I'll have to answer you tomorrow.
That's why they need to know when they file the packet. That's
Also, it's an open meeting, so for our community, if they want to come and listen, I feel like it should be at least 5 o'clock before we start it. That's my personal
We've done
opinion.
some that start at 4, some that start at 5. You know, it's whatever. And it's school's out at that point, so people are a little more flexible, but it's up to
Probably
you.
set that time based on, again, the number of,
Yeah, and I would say to allot like a 4-hour time frame, and then we can adjust it, you know, either go like a 4 to 8 on that Thursday, and then, you know, some people can be here for parts of it, or whatever you think. I mean, it's early enough, and then if we only end up with 5 candidates, it won't last the whole 4 hours.
Am I hearing the Thursday, the 30th?
Can't
everybody else okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, because I,
It's at 4 to 8 in the evening.
yes, on Thursday, May 30th. And then that person would be, you would be voting on a candidate that you would approve, and then they would be sworn in at the June 6th meeting.
Or can I ask, if this is not the right time, how does the voting process happen after we interview the candidates? What has been done traditionally in the past?
It's not a nomination process.
Okay.
There's open conversation between the board members about a candidate that they're all in agreement on, or there's all the candidates, they talk about all of them, and then a motion gets brought forward if there's one candidate in particular, and that candidate has to have 4 votes. You know, at that point, you guys will be a 6-member board, and there has to be 4 votes, even if only 5 people show up to those. If there's only 5 board members that show up, the remaining board is 6. So to make a candidate be appointed, it has to have 4 votes to move forward.
I was just thinking how we did our elections for board, and I was hoping that we'd have more opportunity for discussion before we went to a vote, so.
This is not a nomination process. This is gonna be a open conversation, and then, when it feels
Consensus
like it's
thing.
right to move it forward to a motion, then a person will get motioned on. And, it'll have to be worked out. I mean, if it doesn't get to where it passes, they'll have to just keep continuing the conversation until you can get through it to get a person that's got,
So if it's a tie, 3-3.
talk through
Get
it.
through.
Mhm.
So 8 o'clock end time could be aggressive, just depending upon the number of folks that have applied and how the discourse goes on that over the course of that evening. So
We're going to plan for 5 o'clock, the 30th, 4
4
o'clock?
4 to 8.
Okay, 4 to 8. All right.
And if we could just etch that out right now, and then once the amount of candidates is apparent, if we've got to weasel that around a little bit, at least you've all got it on your calendar, so we can just get it done.
It happened here.
Yes. So Bob, you'll be able to let me know tomorrow? Okay.
Pretty sure I can make it work, but I need to validate one meeting to make
Yeah.
sure I know when it is. I probably can. There's just one meeting that occurs the last week of the month, and I don't know in May when it is, and I am required to be at that meeting. So, depending upon what day of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday it is, I can't do that day or that time frame of that meeting. So, I just don't know off the top of my head when it's scheduled that far out.
Update.
I mean, it's up to you if you want to do.
We're here together rather than you
Mhm.
trying to send out 5,000 emails.
I mean, I really think the board should push to try to get it all done in one sitting. I think it's not gonna be good to have part of the board and not all of the board to both. It's gonna be,
Your record, I'm free all 3 dates, so I have flexibility.
okay.
Is difficult, but
Can look even at the next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a board meeting on that Thursday. Or we could block out the 29th and the 30th if you think there's a possibility that it could be split into 2 different days. Wednesday's bad.
it's a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Mary and I would.
It's still scheduled. You do Tuesday as a backup, the 4th.
20,
Either one, the 28th or the 4th, or
Why are we having a backup day if we're trying to hash it in
if
one
we
day?
end up, if you decide you want to do all candidates and there's 30 or 20 of them or 15 of them, it might be hard to do in one day.
The way we're clearing our calendars now as
Okay.
individuals so that we have the date available if we need to.
Tuesday, the 28th, as the backup. I mean, and then you can all discuss after we get the final candidates in on that Monday, at 4 o'clock. I'll get all the packets put together and get them all out to you, and then you'll know how many candidates there are, and you can talk through what the process is. So I'm gonna do the 30th as the first option, and the 28th. If we have to do both, then we'll just split them up. Okay. Our community. Be part of that.
Well, maybe a follow-on process independent of the board side. How are we communicating to the community, you know, that this is the way to make an application?
I'm going to speak to the website.
And Mary's already got it kind of ready to go. It'll be out on the website, the packet. They can download it at home or pick it up at central office. We don't have to put anything into the paper, but she'll be advertising that it'll be out there for those 2 weeks for anybody. And people have been calling in, and so, you know, we'll have packets readily available. And then anybody who wants to apply has to come in person and apply.
So that start date of the 22nd of April is purposeful. Just, we have this meeting, we have this conversation. Let's a weekend clear things out. Everyone's aware, and then the board's ultimately able to move forward.
So that reminds me, the last piece about tonight. Questions for the pack.
When I mean, most of them, all of them except for one, to me, look pretty straightforward. The one I just had some concerns about was the last one. Will you seek election on the board? And I just ethically don't know whether that's a question we should be asking a candidate.
Having
One,
gone through
two.
this process, I absolutely think that that's important, because one of the things that's so important is that we have a stable board working together. And to have somebody who just wants to come for 1 year, it's not the end of the world, but it doesn't lead stability. And if it gives us an inkling that they're really committed to this, that makes a difference.
So just, Mrs. Sadowski, please verify this. We've had this conversation and looking at the documents of actually where these questions came from. These actually have come from the Missouri School Board Association's set of questions themselves. And so there's nothing opaque here, right? This just all comes from their suggestions for questions themselves. So it's just a point of consideration that the board will have to weigh into, but those are some thoughtful questions. So they're definitely a good starter set to understand the frame, the perspective that a person that's potentially interested in being on the board are definitely thinking from. But these were not created by staff. This comes from MSBA.
I appreciate that. I mean, like I said, the 1 through 7, I was like, okay, these are really great questions. I was just concerned on the 8th one. I appreciate, you know, the comment on stability. So I'll say it must pass legal muster if MSB is proposing it.
And then our legal has reviewed the entire packet as well, so it's all good to go on their end.
Forward to the
There's another set of questions for the interview. This is the packet. They have some of those also are MSBA that we'll probably discuss at the next meeting, maybe.
I would propose for consideration you know, that the 6 board members each get so many minutes to ask their questions, and whether we limit it to 1, 2, or 3, and then we go to the next board member, and whether we do it alphabetically or by tenure, doesn't, flip a coin, but we set up some kind of parameter of either time or number of questions and rotate through the board.
Adherence to
I think the
process.
questions need to be consistent, though.
Right.
It shouldn't, every candidate or person that is applying should be asked the same 6 questions or 12 questions.
Just remember that this is open session, so the first person gets hit with questions they don't know what they are. The last person has already heard everybody's questions and answers. So no, I don't think we should be consistent. I think we should be able to ask whatever questions we like, and if we want to ask a different question, we can ask a different question.
Bob, usually on the questions, it says on there that they ask the candidates, they don't have to, but they ask if the candidates can stay out in the hallway as each one comes in to interview. And in the past, that has always worked, just so that there's not an advantage one way or the other. I mean, you can't force anybody to do that, but it says right on the bottom of the questions when they come in that night to interview is when they each see the same set of questions, and it says on the bottom as each candidate comes in, the rest just kind of wait out in the hallway, so there's like some separation there.
Yes, for the process to be drastically, let's just speak hypothetically, 5 individuals, for it to be drastically different from the first individual to the 5th is going to be problematic. We've got to have a frame, we've got to have a process that we stick to. Otherwise, it opens up a different can of worms, to be very frank. So,
I like the suggestion on, I think that mitigates my concern that if the candidates were going to hear each other's answers,
right.
I'd have a different view on that.
Well, they can.
Right.
Ever been any
also-
thought on, I'm just thinking of what you're saying, and I'm not trying to upset the apple cart, I'm just throwing this out there. Has there ever been any thought, kind of like our President's Forum, where we have 8 designated questions, all the candidates or all the people that are applying are sitting there, and then we ask the questions just like we would in a forum. So candidate A would start with question 1, candidate B would start with question 2, and they're all in here together at the same time. Just a thought.
That kind of answers Bob's question. That gives them a minute then to think about the question and answer, right?
On a rotating basis.
They may be first.
Don't always get,
Okay.
we'll rotate every time on every question, like we did in
Yeah.
forums.
Okay.
So you're not always getting the first shot at it. Or
I
the
think
last
the
shot.
process has worked fine the way it has before. I'm just throwing that out as a.
Well,
something
and you
think
don't have to
about.
decide the process right now. That's the thing. We wanted to get through this part tonight and get the applicants in, because what you decide could depend on how many applicants you get.
4 or 5 applicants, I think what you just said actually kind of sounds somewhat neat.
You can do,
But
however,
if there's 20,
but if there's 20, that will be difficult.
won't work.
Right. So it'll depend on what the outcome is of the window.
I do like that idea, though. It does sound kind of neat.
And at
Do we have to vote to?
President, but yet just before, everyone okay with what's been discussed and supportive of the direction we're going? Just want to make sure we capture that. All right. Thank you.
I just make a plug, if anyone is free on Tuesday morning, it's Battle of the Books with the elementary kiddos. And if you haven't had a chance to come and watch it, it's delightful. So to those of you that haven't been there on the board, it's really a fun morning, so I highly
It's on the
encourage
board
you.
calendar too.
Yes.
So,
Great event.
and can I mention too that, we're looking for one board member to sit on the communication lab for the OTPT, group. It is on April 30th from 4 to 6 at Green Pines. April 30th. Mhm. So Miss President Medyet has the list of previous people, so I don't know if you've done one recently, if anybody who. Okay, no, Carrie.
I'll do it if no one.
April 30th, 4 to 6 at Green Pines. Okay. Okay, I'll send you an invite tomorrow, so let me know if you can't, and we'll go with somebody else who still can. Okay.
I'm available.
Okay.
Calendar at